Before I get into this, I just want to say how much of an honor it is to be named the official representative and head instructor for Cane Fighters International in Canada. I am over the moon about this promotion, and it falls in line with my deep connection to the protector archetype, or for lack of a better word, the warrior archetype. I believe my life experiences had led me to this. When I was a teenager, we had a terrible event take place in our town. Two young girls, two teens, had their young lives cut short by a piece of human garbage. I knew one of the young ladies. She was in my acting class in high school. And at the same time, my sister was getting stalked. And here's the crazy thing. When that piece of garbage was caught for the murders of those two girls, the stalking that my sister had gone through stopped. And during this period, when she was getting stalked, I tried to be her protector. I was young. I tried to protect my sister as best I could. But after the individual who killed these young women was arrested, that stopped. So we assumed that it was likely him that was stalking my sister, but we don't know for sure. During this period, I always had a weapon at the ready at home. I had sticks, I had a bat, I had other weapons that were at my side or near my bed whenever I was home. I never was too far away from something that I could at least improvise into a weapon. I had chased these people when they had followed my sister with a crowbar, with other things, and a couple of times me and one of my friends had almost caught them. We had gone after them in vehicles, we had chased them, and we never managed to catch whoever it was that was stalking my sister. This probably was what cemented into my young mind that it was my responsibility to protect those that I love. And the other day, one of my friends stopped by the gym and we discussed this very subject, the subject of the protector, the sacred protector, the family protector, the man or woman who chooses to gain the skills to be able to better protect those around them, to be better equipped to use force to counter violence if that situation is forced upon them. For some people, martial arts is a fun hobby. For people like me and the friend of mine who stopped by, and many people I know, many people in my school, many of my compadres, many of the people I train with, this is a lifestyle. This is part of our choice, our path, our vocation, and what we hold in the highest regard as far as our place in society. We do exist outside of societal norms, and people who look at us from the outside might think we're a little bit crazy. And maybe we are. Maybe we're a little bit nuts to think that this is so important. But my life has taught me that people like me in the right place at the right time can be very important to have around. What makes us tick? I don't know. But I know many people who follow this path. And let me tell you, I love each and every one of them. I think it is a very noble ideal to be someone who chooses to be a protector. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that physiology and the adrenaline dump may take control of me, and flight may be what comes. I know that often people who are warriors are forced to confront the shame that they put upon themselves for freezing, even though this is a very natural and deeply ingrained survival tactic that, if they are still here after that freeze, means that their subconscious told them what they needed to do to survive. But it is hard for warriors to come to peace with that. But things like training and preparation can overcome those physiological, natural, built-in defense systems. The protector, the person who embraces this archetype doesn't always end up being someone who protects others, but they may end up teaching someone who ends up in that predicament. I have had many students come back to me and tell me that the skills they learned from me helped save them in a bad situation. I've had students disarm knives. I've had students disarm collapsible batons. I have had students improvise weapons against multiple attackers. There have been a few who've come back to me and thanked me for the skills I've given them. I too have had the occasion where I've had to use force, mostly warranted, but sometimes it was my bad habits that led me there. And it was those experiences before I began training that led me to wanting to become a trained fighter, that led me to want to have skills to protect myself so I didn't overreact in a bad situation. I've spent a lifetime learning weapon skills, empty hand skills, and just the psychology and physiology of violence, as well as the realities of self-defense and violence, which isn't exactly like you see promoted in most martial arts schools and self-defense schools. It has become my job to teach others about the realities of violence. Even though I do teach basically traditional martial arts for the most part, but I do also teach combatives and self-defense. And that is one of my biggest passions and one of my biggest missions in life, is to get this information and these skills to others. My entire work life revolves around this, as well as teaching children to have good boundaries and to be confident in themselves and to be able to say no to people and mean it, and to know when to stand up for themselves physically. These are things that are my entire focus in life outside of my responsibilities to my family. And for those on the outside of this, I believe it may be hard for others, for people who aren't into this kind of lifestyle, to look at and understand why it is so important for me and other people to have this lifestyle, to teach these skills, to pass on these kinds of skills to others, and to always be prepared, or try to always be prepared, to deal with the worst kind of behaviors a human being can exhibit, to be ready to deal with violence and aggression. Honestly, I believe those of us who follow this path are basically realists about the human condition, and we understand that violence is not outside of societal norms. It is something that happens. It has always been something that happens. It has always been a tool that humans have used and abused over the years. And we are just people who prepare to counter that, to counter those who would use these kinds of skills abusively against other people. Tim Larkin said it best: violence is rarely the answer, but when it is the answer, it is the only answer. So, why not be good at it in case you have to use it? Why not be good at being able to use force to counter criminal violence or social violence if you face it? Understand this, that if you are going to develop these skills, you need to know how to use them appropriately, to use the appropriate use of force, to be able to tell when it is the right time to use force and when it is the right time to flee, to go to safety, when it is the right time to try to de-escalate, when it is the right time to give what the person wants if they're using threats of violence upon you, and when it is the right time to sacrifice or potentially sacrifice yourself for those you love. This is what it means to be a personal protector. It comes with a lot of maturity and self-reflection. However, it is also a very rewarding thing to train. It does many things for you that are beyond the use of force, beyond the ability to fight. And that is why many of us put a lifetime into these skills. Thank you.